Hello there, Augustine here. Thanks for tuning in. This video is about how a DSLR shutter system works and how it affects some special flash-related functions. This tutorial might be useful to beginners into DSLR photography as well as mid-level photographers. I'm sure you have heard about flash sync speed, high speed sync, first curtain sync, and second curtain sync, also known as rear curtain sync. My aim today is to explain what they are and how they affect our photographic creativity in an easy to understand way. These functions, however, are closely related to the shutter mechanism. So, we must first understand how the shutter system works. We know that the sensor sits in the middle of the camera at the focal plane. The shutters sit right in front of the sensor and so is called focal plane shutters. If you have noticed, I said shutters, not shutter. That's right. There are two shutters or curtains in a DSLR camera. They are called first curtain and, you guessed it, second curtain, which is also called rear curtain. Wondering why we need two shutters? That will be clear in a bit. The first curtain sits in front of the sensor, blocking all lights coming through the lens until the shutter button is pressed. The second curtain sits above, ready to be called into action. In some cameras, the shutters move vertically, that is up or down, and in some horizontally, that is left or right. In this video, I am using vertical system for the illustrations. When we press the shutter button, many things happen. Let us watch a graphic representation of the process. Please watch the curtains closely. The sequence of events that took place are: the first curtain slid open fully, the sensor was exposed to the light from the lens, the image was formed on the sensor, the second curtain slid down to conceal the sensor again, and then both curtains reset. If you have missed it, let's watch the process one more time. First curtain opens, image is formed, second curtain closes, both curtains reset. So far so good. However, we have a slight problem with this setup. Modern DSLRs are capable of fast shutter speeds, 4,000th or even 8,000th of a second. Such blinding speed cannot be achieved if second curtain waits for first curtain to fully open. So, the engineers came up with an ingenious idea. At higher shutter speeds, the second curtain will follow the first. How soon does it start? Depends on how fast the shutter speed you have set. Let's now see what happens at higher shutter speed. The first curtain slides open, and before it is fully open, the second curtain follows. This results in a rectangle-shaped opening moving down the sensor, exposing it to the light before the second curtain closes fully. At no time in this process is the sensor fully revealed to the light. At even faster shutter speeds, the process is similar, except that the second curtain chases the first one immediately. This results in a small slit of opening moving down the sensor, so that exposure could be completed blindingly fast. Let us watch it now. Wondering why or when does this matter? There are actually implications on many aspects of photography, including exposure. But this video is about the impact on some flash-related functions. Obviously, if you do not use a flash, this doesn't matter probably. Let's now throw a flash or a speed light into the mix. If a speed light is used at lower shutter speeds, when the shutter button is pressed, the first curtain opens fully. The flash then fires, exposing the sensor. The second curtain closes and the curtain resets. Take a look. What happens when we use flash at a higher shutter speed? The first curtain begins to open. The second curtain follows immediately. When the first curtain fully opens, the flash fires. Obviously, the second curtain would be blocking part of the sensor when the flash fires. This will result in a partially exposed image. Let us watch that. Where the dark band appears might vary from camera to camera, depending on if the shutters move up or down or left or right. If the flash fires before the first curtain fully opens, we might even get dark bands on both edges. So obviously, the light from the flash reaches the whole sensor only if the shutter speed is low enough to allow first curtain to open fully before the second curtain begins closing. Otherwise, the second curtain will block the sensor partially, resulting in partially exposed images. This speed is called the flash sync speed of the camera. In other words, the flash sync speed is the maximum shutter speed possible where the first curtain opens fully before the second curtain begins closing. This speed varies from camera to camera. It's usually 200th or 250th of a second for most DSLRs. Most modern cameras do not permit the speed dial to go beyond its flash sync speed when a flash is mounted, unless high-speed sync is enabled. Now that leads us to the question, what is high-speed sync? As the name suggests, it allows the use of a flash at higher shutter speeds than the native flash sync speed of a camera. One condition though, both the camera as well as the flash unit should support high-speed sync. When high-speed sync is enabled, the flash fires continuously as the two curtains move down the sensor. This way, the whole sensor gets exposed to the light from the flash. Take a look. First curtain sync. What is it? It's a creative technique used to capture motion blur of a moving subject. It only works at shutter speed slow enough to capture motion blur. When set to first curtain sync, the flash fires once immediately after the first curtain opens. This freezes the moving subject at the start of the exposure. Then the ambient light exposes the movement of the subject until the second curtain closes. This illustration will make it clear. Because the action is frozen at the start and then the movement is registered, the motion blur may look a bit unnatural, especially when the movement is forward, like in this picture. I believe the default setting of most cameras is first curtain sync. Second curtain sync, again, it's a creative technique to capture motion blur of a moving subject. Again, it only works at shutter speed slower enough to capture motion blur. The difference is, in this case, the flash fires once just before the second curtain closes. This means that the ambient light captures the movement of the subject before the flash fires and freezes the subject at the last possible moment. This creates a natural looking blur behind the subject. Let's watch second curtain sync in action. The motion blur looks natural in the above picture. Please check your camera's manual to see if it has this feature or how to set it up. That brings us to the end of this tutorial. I hope you learned something new or were able to refresh your knowledge on the subject. I intend to produce more such videos in future. Please let me know if you like this video. Constructive comments are always welcome. Thank you.